The following account has been circulating on horror forums and urban legend websites for the past 3 years. What started as a single post on Reddit's Let's Not Meet has spawned dozens of similar reports from women across North America. While the details vary, the core elements remain disturbingly consistent. The original story, posted by user SarahNightShift92, has been independently verified by local police records and security footage that, according to those who've seen it, defies rational explanation. Sarah Martinez had walked home from her late shift at the diner countless times before. The route from Murphy's All-Night Grill to her apartment on Elm Street was a straight shot through downtown Millbrook, 15 minutes of well-lit sidewalks and familiar storefronts that she could navigate blindfolded. But that Tuesday night in October felt different from the moment she stepped outside. The streetlights seemed dimmer somehow, casting pools of amber light that didn't quite connect, leaving strange gaps of shadow between them. The usual sounds of the city, distant traffic, the hum of air conditioners, the occasional siren, had faded to an unnatural quiet that made her footsteps echo louder than they should. Sarah pulled her jacket tighter and picked up her pace. She'd been working double shifts for 3 weeks straight, saving money for her mother's medical bills, and exhaustion was making her paranoid. That had to be it. Just tired nerves and too much caffeine. It was while passing Hartley's antique shop that she first saw him. Not directly. She caught the reflection in the store's large front window. A tall figure standing motionless on the opposite sidewalk, maybe 50 feet behind her. In the distorted glass, she could make out an impossibly thin silhouette and what looked like a pale face, but the details were unclear in the warped reflection. Sarah turned to look, but the sidewalk behind her was empty. Street lamps illuminated nothing but pavement and the occasional parked car. She stood there for a long moment, studying the shadows between buildings, but saw no movement, heard no footsteps. When she looked back at the antique shop window, the reflection was gone too. From a post on r/paranormal by user Millbrook Local. My sister works nights downtown and she's been seeing this guy too. Says he shows up in store windows but never actually on the street. Manager at the 7-Eleven checked their security cameras after she reported it. Footage shows her looking around all scared, but there's nobody there, except pause it at the right moment and you can see something in the reflection of the Slurpee machine. Something tall and wrong. Sarah continued walking, but now she found herself checking every reflective surface she passed. Car windows, storefront glass, even puddles from the afternoon rain. Most showed nothing unusual, just her own tired face and the empty street behind her. But in the window of Murphy's Hardware, she saw him again. This time the reflection was clearer. The figure stood directly behind her, close enough that she should have felt his presence, should have heard him breathing. He was impossibly tall and thin, like someone had stretched a normal person on a medieval rack until all proportion was lost. His limbs were too long, his fingers extending well past where they should end. And he was smiling. Even in the distorted reflection, that smile was unmistakable. A grotesquely wide grin that split his face from ear to ear, showing far too many teeth. It wasn't a human expression of joy or even malice. It was the fixed, painted smile of a mannequin, frozen and unnatural and utterly wrong. Sarah spun around so fast she nearly lost her balance. Empty sidewalk, no tall man, no smile, no sign that anyone had been there at all. But when she looked back at the hardware store window, her own reflection now seemed wrong too. Her face appeared pale and distorted, and for just a moment, she could swear her mouth was stretched into that same impossible smile. From the Millbrook Police Department Incident Report, filed October 23rd, subject reported feeling followed during late-night walk home. No evidence of actual stalker found. However, officer notes unusual number of similar reports from young women in the downtown area over past month. Recommend increased patrols during overnight hours. Handwritten note in margin. Check security footage again. Something in those reflections that doesn't match what's actually there. Request consultation with tech specialist. Sarah quickened her pace, her comfortable 15-minute walk becoming a hurried march through increasingly unfamiliar territory. The streets looked the same. Main Street leading to Oak oak intersecting with pine, but the distances felt wrong. She'd been walking for what felt like half an hour, yet she couldn't seem to get any closer to her neighborhood. The streetlights began to flicker intermittently, creating a strobe effect that made the shadows dance and shift. In those brief moments of darkness between flashes, Sarah caught glimpses of movement in her peripheral vision. A tall figure ducking behind a car, slipping into an alley, always just outside her direct line of sight. She tried calling her roommate, but her phone showed no signal despite being in the heart of downtown. The screen flickered with static, and for one brief moment, instead of her own face in the black screen's reflection, she saw that terrible smile looking back at her. From an anonymous post on 4chan's paranormal board, the smiling man feeds on fear, specifically the fear of being watched, being followed, being hunted. He doesn't exist in normal space, only in reflections, in the corners of your vision, in the spaces between what's real and what's perceived. The more afraid you get, the more solid he becomes. Some say if you see him clearly, not just his reflection but his actual form, he can cross over completely. My cousin saw him face to face last year, found her wandering downtown at 3 a.m., completely catatonic, that same frozen smile on her face. She hasn't spoken since. At Pine and 3rd Street, Sarah realized she'd been walking in circles. This was the same intersection she'd passed 20 minutes ago, and 20 minutes before that. The streets had somehow looped back on themselves, creating a maze with no exit, trapping her in an endless circuit through the downtown district. Panic rose in her throat as she tried to chart a new course, turning down an alley she'd never seen before despite walking these streets for 2 years. The alley was narrow, barely wide enough for a single car, with tall brick buildings rising on either side like canyon walls. Halfway down the alley, she heard it, the sound of footsteps echoing behind her, but wrong somehow. Instead of the normal rhythm of walking left, right, these footsteps came in sets of 3. Step, 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 pause. Step, 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 pause. As if something was learning how to walk, practicing the motion without quite understanding it. Sarah broke into a run, her sneakers slapping against wet pavement as she raced toward the far end of the alley. But with each step she took, the exit seemed to recede further away, the brick walls stretching like taffy, extending the alley far beyond its natural length. Behind her, the footsteps continued their unnatural rhythm, neither speeding up nor falling behind, maintaining the exact same distance no matter how fast she ran. From a deleted post on r/missing411, recovered from Internet Archive. The pattern is always the same. Young women, walking alone at night, all report seeing a tall man with a wrong smile in reflections before disappearing. Security cameras show them walking normally, then suddenly running, then nothing. They just vanish between one frame and the next. But if you look carefully at the footage, really examine the reflective surfaces in the background, you can see him, always smiling, always watching. The post was removed for violating community guidelines, but I saved screenshots. There are 47 documented cases across 12 states. The authorities know about him. They just can't figure out how to fight something that doesn't technically exist. The alley finally ended, depositing Sarah back onto Main Street exactly where she'd started her journey home 45 minutes ago. Murphy's all-night grill glowed with warm fluorescent light, exactly as she'd left it, as if no time had passed at all. But something was different now. The windows, all the windows along the entire street, were filled with reflections of the same tall, smiling figure. Dozens of him, hundreds of him, standing motionless in every piece of glass, every chrome surface, every puddle that could hold an image. All of them watching her. All of them smiling that terrible, impossible smile. Sarah looked down at her own shadow cast by the streetlight, and even that was wrong. Instead of her normal silhouette, the shadow was elongated and distorted, with arms that stretched too far and a head that tilted at an unnatural angle. As she watched in horror, the shadow's mouth opened impossibly wide, creating a black grin that matched the reflection figures surrounding her. She closed her eyes, pressing her palms against her face, trying to block out the images. But even with her eyes shut, she could feel them watching, could sense that terrible smile boring into her from every direction. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer alone on the street. He stood 20 feet away, no longer confined to reflections. The smiling man had crossed over into physical reality, and seeing him directly was far worse than any distorted window image could have prepared her for. He was impossibly tall, at least 8 feet, but so thin he seemed two-dimensional, like a paper cutout of a person. His limbs were the wrong length, his joints bent in directions that defied anatomy. His skin was the color of old parchment, stretched tight over bones that jutted at sharp angles. But it was his face that broke something fundamental in Sarah's mind. The smile literally extended from ear to ear, a crimson slash that revealed rows upon rows of needle-sharp teeth, more than any mouth should be able to hold. His eyes were completely black, not just the pupils but the entire eye, like looking into deep water at night. And he was breathing wrong. The rhythm was all off, too slow and too deep, as if he was manually operating lungs that had forgotten their purpose. From the final post by user SarahNightShift92, before her account was deleted. I know you're reading this. I know you think I'm crazy, that this is just another internet horror story made up for karma and attention. But I'm posting this from my apartment at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep, because every time I close my eyes, I see that smile. He followed me home. He's still here. I can see him in my bathroom mirror, in my phone screen, in the black window by my bed. Always watching, always smiling, never getting closer but never going away. The worst part is I understand now what he wants. He doesn't want to hurt me, not exactly. He wants to replace me, to wear my reflection like a mask until people can't tell the difference between Sarah Martinez and the thing that smiles back at them from mirrors. If you see this post tomorrow and my account is gone, if my friends and family say I never came home from work Tuesday night, just remember, check the reflections. Look carefully at security footage, at store windows, at anything that can hold an image. I'm still there, somewhere behind the glass, trying to warn you, and I'm still smiling. Sarah Martinez was reported missing on October 24th after failing to show up for her Wednesday evening shift at Murphy's All Night Grill. Security footage from downtown Millbrook shows her leaving the restaurant at 11:47 p.m., walking normally for approximately 2 blocks before the cameras lose track of her. However, upon closer examination of the footage, investigators noted anomalies in the reflective surfaces visible in the background. The footage has been classified and is no longer available for public viewing. In the 3 years since Sarah's disappearance, similar reports have surfaced in cities across North America. Always the same pattern. Young women walking alone at night, reports of a tall figure in reflections, then disappearance without a trace. Online forums dedicated to the smiling man phenomenon have documented over 200 potential cases, though most are dismissed by authorities as urban legend or copycat reports. But the security footage tells a different story. Those who have seen the classified recordings describe the same impossible figure appearing in windows and mirrors throughout the incidents, always watching, always smiling, growing more solid with each sighting until the cameras can no longer distinguish between the original person and their reflected pursuer. The most disturbing detail, according to those familiar with the evidence, is what happens in the final frames. The missing women don't disappear from the footage. They smile, and they start walking in that wrong rhythm. Step, 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 pause, as if they're learning how to move like something else, something that exists primarily in the space between mirror and reality. The investigation continues, though officials refuse to comment on the specifics. Citizens are advised to walk in groups when possible and to report any unusual activity involving reflective surfaces. But perhaps the most chilling evidence comes from recent security footage in other cities, where new women have begun appearing in the background of unrelated recordings.